Attach the fellas.
Alright, we got some time to get to know each other, so here's some recorded questions. Who knows who Eric and Alan are?
Wait, what?
Eric and Alan. Shinigami, Eric and Alan.
Big musical.
How many fans do we have?
You're a musical, but I know.
Not that many. You guys need to go check out the musical, especially the second.
The second one, yes.
Yes.
The most beautiful death in the world.
1,000 Souls in a Fallen Shinigami.
You got it.
Longest title ever. So, I think we can go ahead and start with introductions. It looks like our room is filling up pretty fast. So, please forgive me if I'm nervous. I'm a first-time panelist. I just happen to love this fandom so much.
Yes!
If there's open chairs, stand up and move that way. We still have some people coming in, and we want everybody to enjoy our panel goodness.
Please fill every seat.
Everyone shift to the right.
Real quick, like.
Another Sebastian girl came in. Yes! Really? Another left. Another girl.
Do I need to grab that again?
Oh no, you're in front of me.
No, you can put it.
Alright, is anyone here new to Black Butler?
Okay, spoilers!
Okay, prepare for spoilers. First of all, I commend you for even being here, because there will be spoilers.
But the good thing is, if this is new to you, and you're just now hearing the 2CL panel, and you're going to watch it and read it for the first time, you'll pick up on these things more than you would. You can't hear me?
Nope. Use the microphone.
Really? I'm loud, so I figured...
We want it to be recorded.
No, we don't want it to be recorded. I was outvoted. It's going to go down like the Titanic. It'll be my fault. Like the Campania, yes.
Campania.
All right. So, we've already discussed spoilers, but if you're going to read it for the first time, I think that getting to see where the 2CL theory comes into play actually makes you pick up on things that I might have missed. And I'm obsessed about this subject, so you might find things I've accidentally skipped. And then next year you can do this panel and we'll get your research. So, introductions, yes. No, let's let the panelists go first.
My name is Kim Ivy. I'm her best friend, and she drugged me into this whole Dragon Con thing.
And this fandom.
And this fandom, but it's really awesome.
Kicking and screaming.
Yes.
She swore she would never watch an anime.
Yeah,
Never.
And this is like the most awesome anime ever. So.
Woo!
But I'm just basically here with her, doing her PowerPoint here.
And to keep me in line.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep her in line.
Oh.
Hi everyone, I'm Araya Simmons, and I got into Black Butler at the end of 2013, and my roommate dragged me into it, and I watched a couple episodes of the anime and got hooked. So I've read, I've seen all the anime and read all the books and everything. So I'm super psyched about what's going to be animated next, and the 2CL's theory panel. 2CL's theory is actually my most passionate theory in this fandom, and I've done a ton of research on it and discussed it, and have never seen a 2CL's theory panel before. So I jumped at the chance to help out Miss Kim here.
No pressure.
So exactly. So we may be the first of our kind with this panel. So I'm excited to be here and help out and help fill it. So.
You want to say hello? The little blonde is my 10-year-old daughter who loves Black Butler, who knows the words to Shinigami Haken Koikai Desu. And you want to give them a growl? You do? Come on.
Oh,
Come on, you can do it.
you can do this. You got it.
Come on, just
Do it.
come on.
I love that song. You got
I can
it.
make you sing the song instead. This is her first Dragon Con, so she's a little shy. But my name is Kim.
Oh.
I'm Kim number 1. If you have a question for me, just use Kim 1 since we have a Kim 2 as well.
It's the two Kim's theory panel.
Strangely appropriate for this. So let's go ahead and start. How many people are already familiar with the 2 Ciel theory? Okay, not a lot. So, what is the 2 Ciel theory? There are so many different splits from this theory. The one that we're going to concentrate on today, the one that makes the most sense to me, is that there were twin Phantomhive boys. And Ciel that we know is not actually Ciel Phantomhive, but his younger twin brother. Now, there are tons of this theory where they call it the Prince and the Pauper theory, where they just happen to have a child in the cage that looked a lot like Ciel, but I think that's a little hard because the mannerisms and language of an Earl versus like a Cockney boy would have been very hard to pick up in such a short time. You have the Ciel's mental breakdown theory, that there are 2 Ciels only in Ciel's mind, a good Ciel and a bad Ciel, the devil on my shoulder kind of theory. And again, these split and split and split again until we could hash over the different types all night long. So, now, has Yana ever mentioned anything about the 2 Ciel theory? Not specifically, although I really like this path on the foreshadowing. This is from her blog. It's been translated into English. I know it's hard for everybody in the back to see, so I'm going to read it. What's foreshadowing? Recently, I've often been asked when I started to drop hints and foreshadowings which are relevant to the main story, such as the main villain or character's profiles. Roughly speaking, I'd say since the very first volume. I started to emphasize those foreshadowing scenes in volume 3 or 4, though, namely after it was confirmed that I could continue drawing this manga series for another few arcs. There aren't many hints in the first volume. I only dropped a few hints in the characters' lines, in their outward appearance, or in the background. My foreshadowing techniques at the time, like Lizzie's shoes, I think we can kind of skip that. Now, the reason why I did so is that I don't like foreshadowing and hints which are left unanswered in the end. I don't want readers to pore over the hints too much and then get disappointed in the end. What's with all that foreshadowing? That's why I plan to give little hints which readers didn't notice at first and therefore can be left unanswered. So we know that there is something to foreshadow, which I think is one of the biggest kind of clues that we know that there's something going on, we just don't really know what it might be. I don't want to worry readers too much about it. That's one of the hints are supposed to make people think, that's a little weird, but who cares, and continue reading. Those hints don't affect the ending of each arc anyway, so don't think too much about it. It's basically... Okay. So, like I said, we know that there's something to foreshadow, we just don't know what it is. The only other time that I'm aware of that Yana has spoken on this is with this picture. If anybody owns the art book, you'll notice it. There's supposed to be another slide after that. There's actually a quote that Yana did that basically says there's something very mysterious going on this page. And it was the page with this picture on it. So we can see, hold on, go back. We can see that there's a boy that looks like Ciel smiling and holding hands with somebody. All right. What clues and hints have been given to support this theory?
A mountain.
There's the quote. Okay, photographic evidence. Among these illustrations, there's a very meaningful, mysterious picture, and it was on this page, which is the page I showed you with the photograph. So, that one. That is the actual picture. Okay, has anybody ever been reading the manga or watching the anime, and there'll be a scene, and you'll go, that's a little bit strange the way they worded it. Oh well, and kind of keep on going? Yeah, everybody's kind of hit those moments. I think that those are the subtle hints that Jan is talking about. She drops very tiny things that when you kind of maybe read them 2 or 3 times, when you reread the series and you start picking up on them more and more. Why is Sebastian smirking when there should be no reason for it? Why is Ciel worried about Lizzie's reaction on something that maybe shouldn't be causing any problems? What have you noticed?
Like the fact that he has asthma, and he hides the fact that he has asthma, particularly from Lizzie. And Lizzie would have known if there are 2 twins, she would have known which one had the asthma and which one did not. And if we're taking some of the other hints more seriously that have been dropped, then the other twin seems to have been more lively. He got outside more, those kinds of things. So it seems like one was sickly and the other wasn't.
2 different personalities. And we will actually touch on that in a few minutes, okay? Now this is one of the panels that I did not pay a lot of attention to. It's in one of the first books. I'm not exactly sure where. We see Ciel being born, but notice that the nurse has a baby in her hands, but Rachel has a baby in her arms, and she's telling Anne to hold him. But does anybody else see where that might be 2 babies? Where you're kind of looking, she's already got one. Why would she need to be told that he's a healthy boy? She's already got him in her arms.
Yeah, unless they're skipping time or something. Or she gives the baby to her, and then that's the panel. But that's kind of a big jump in time. So you could read it either way, that it's 1 baby or that it's 2. So.
And these are the ambiguous hints that we're talking about. They are very hard to notice. Sometimes you see them and sometimes you don't. So, okay, this is during one of the first arcs where Lizzie comes over and she wants to have the ball with Ciel. So we see Ciel telling Lizzie that Lizzie's trying to get Ciel to call her Lizzie. She's constantly saying, aren't I saying to call me Lizzie? Aren't I always telling you to call me Lizzie? Well, if they were familiar enough where it would have been habit at one time, then why would she have to keep reminding him to call her Lizzie? You want to switch panels for me? This is from a little bit later. This first panel is the ball arc. This is during one of the later panels, but we see a very lively and smiling Ciel call Lizzie, Lizzie.
This is a few arcs later.
Right.
Yeah, this is really far.
And so we obviously knew it was a habit at one time for Ciel to call Elizabeth Lizzie. The fiancé thing, I always thought this panel was really interesting. It's not like I became her fiancé, I was forced to it. But then we have this same panel, we have Ciel saying, I'm glad you're the one that's going to be my wife. He doesn't look like he's being forced into it there. How many people put their names in quotation marks?
We've checked multiple translations for that, and it is written that way in the Japanese.
Yes,
well.
all of these slides that you're showing are from the fan-dub, only because I could not get my Kindle to release the coding on it to let me make pictures. So even though we're using the fan subs, I have double-checked each translation that I'm giving you, and it goes exactly from the English to the Japanese the same way. So nothing is ambiguous because it's been translated.
And this is the first of many panels that we see throughout the manga that Ciel seems to be referring to himself in the 3rd person.
And actually, we're fixing to show you all of those.
Yes.
So we've got this one. This is interesting, I thought, that the ring says Sing my grandfather, father, and then, and we have a blank space. Wouldn't it just be grandfather and father? Why the and?
Yeah.
She's letting us. I think once you get used to this theory of thinking that there's two CLs, you really start going, you know, Yana, I think you're making this too easy for us.
Because if he had a brother, there would have been another death there.
There you go. This is looking back. First time I read this, I thought this was very strange because we have Sebastian remembering this quote from Ciel. And we can see Sebastian's laughing. Well, Ciel's not that funny. I don't think he's ever made me laugh. So, what is so funny? What is Sebastian having such a good time about? I think it's because there's two CLs. Okay. Let's look at this quote right there. Those guys, or I, as the Earl of Phantomhive. If you're the Earl of Phantomhive, you really don't have to refer to yourself like that. You would just say, either those guys are going to win or I'm going to win. We don't have to rehash. We know who you are, Ciel. You're the main character of the story. So another place where just the language is very subtle. Yeah. Now this is a picture where you may look at it and go, well, where's the other Ciel? But we know from later in the books that our Ciel has very, very bad asthma, that he often wasn't able to play with his family. It's brought up numerous times, especially in the circus arc. So if you were looking or you're remembering your family, you wouldn't see yourself in that. You would just see them. And we can see
a flashback on the right.
It is.
He's remembering what has been lost. And so as you can see, there's a boy there who, if you interpret the two CLs theory, it might be his brother and not himself in that memory.
And look, he's smiling. How many times does RCL ever smile, really? Unless he's killing somebody. You know. Here we go again. As Ciel Phantomhive, head of the Phantomhive household. And we got Sebastian again, chuckling in the background. We know he doesn't like lies. So, unless Ciel just has some strange thing about referring to himself in third person in dramatic situations, it doesn't make much sense to keep reiterating this. And again, you gotta love Vassy. This is the panel directly after that first one. Sebastian is saying, "You told me not to lie, yet you seem to be quite the liar." Well, at that point, what had he given Sebastian except his name? There wasn't anything to really lie about. So,
his name and the fact that he's an earl, and that's pretty much it. So either he's lying about being an earl, which he wouldn't be, even if he has a twin, he's still the earl, he inherits it, but so he wouldn't be lying about that, but he could be lying about his name.
And here we go again. Earl and Butler, we're not there yet. We have to become the real thing as soon as possible. So Ciel is saying that he's not the real Earl there. They have to become it. They have to learn all of the things that as the other son he might not have known. Maybe some etiquette, maybe some extra information on the peerage of England. Could have been anything. We don't know. We just know that Ciel himself has said that he is not the real Earl. Another one of these, after taking this title, Earl Ciel Phantomhive, it starts to get repetitive, I know, but we're pointing out every time that Ciel has basically referred to himself in the third person throughout this series. And as you can see, there's quite a lot. Anything to add?
Yeah, and also he's referring to, he says after taking up this title, and yes, you could say he is taking it up after his predecessor, but who the predecessor actually is kind of ambiguous, because you assume throughout the story that it's Vincent. But this, combined with a lot of other hints, makes you question, you know, who was the real predecessor. And if he was the younger twin, his brother would have been the natural successor. So if he died, then he would have taken it up too. So it's very subtle here, but it gives you pause after looking at some of the other more major hints that we have later on.
Okay. All right, I really like this picture. It doesn't really have any clues per se, but I think the fact that we have Ciel with the parents in the background holding out an identical headband, kind of, when you look at it from the 2CL perspective, it kind of says something. Anybody else? All right. So 2 different personalities. We already know that our Ciel from the books is not the funniest guy to be around, kind of sullen, stoic. Yeah, glum would be a good word. I think insecure as well. I think our Ciel kind of radiates a lot of insecurities. And then we have the other child who is very happy-go-lucky, always seems smiling, very outgoing with other people. Okay.
On to the big ones.
Yeah, we're moving through
On
them.
to the big ones.
Okay, this is Vincent from the, this is from Book of Circus, I think. So we've got what appears to be Ciel right here, but then we go to the next panel, and
This is from Kelvin's memory, Baron Kelvin's memory, if you remember from the circus arc.
Kim. So if I have a child beside me here, and then I move, that child is still beside me. He's not behind me at any point. So the way that this hand is perfectly blocks where the child was standing just a moment ago. Also, we see this child, from their facial expression, is very shy, very quiet.
The moment I saw that hand, I thought that was very unnecessary, foreshortening. So,
Yes.
But you may not be looking for it. So it's very clever on Yana's part if there is another child there and the hand just happens to be the exact same size. So.
Or the skirt in the
Why
other
wouldn't it
picture. There's a skirt that blocks a view. It's very... It stops being less subtle and it starts to be manipulative.
Right, because one side of Vincent is always covered. It's not always the left, it's not always the right, it switches. And unless this single child is, running around from either side and changing personalities, then I would say there's 2 there for sure.
Alright, so we've got this Ciel saying, "It's nice to meet you, Baron Kelvin. I'm smiling, I'm happy, I'm definitely not scared of you." And then our next is a child that's shy and hiding behind his father's back. And we've got Vincent saying that his health is poor, so he doesn't venture out much. But the child from the first slide did not look like he'd been suffering from any poor health. Alright, so I like this line right here. It says, "Both of you are here today. What a rare occasion." I don't think he's talking about Vincent and Ciel. I think he's talking about Ciel and his twin. Because the next line, Ciel has to come along even though he hasn't really recovered from his sickness yet.
Yeah, and that's with this. That line is actually translated different ways as well. The sometimes in this translation, obviously, it's Ciel asked to come along, so making people think like, okay, well, is the Ciel we know really named Ciel or not? But in some other translations, it's more like he decided to come along, or this one decided to come along, and so that's why it's kind of ambiguous as to which one he's talking about, because we think he's talking about the younger twin because obviously the younger sickly one didn't go out to parties much, that kind of thing. So that's why we're like, wait, are they both named Ciel? But it depends on which translation you get. So again, very ambiguous.
Okay, the line reads, I just couldn't really take my eyes off of those three, but
Kelvin speaking.
when I looked at it, I thought maybe he was talking about Vincent, Claus, and Ciel, but I noticed on the coloring that Claus is almost shaded out, like he's not the focus of the picture. And then you've got Vincent with his hand over here at the perfect height to put it on a child's head.
Yeah, he's even looking that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, this is from not the actual series, it's one of the side books. These panels are a little bit separated, so basically to give you some background, Rachel is sick, Vincent and Ciel decide to cook for her. So we've got child, again, smiling, happy, very vivacious, and running to go, I love this line, and I'll go play some chess now. And then we see the next panel. Okay. Actually, go one more for me. One more forward. And there's the chess set right there. But, you know, it takes two people to play chess, right? Well, how about the fact that there are 2 cups, 2 bowls, 2 spoons?
Yeah, everything else in this picture gives me pause for sure, because some things you can explain away, but there's some other things that you can't. There's 2 tops, the 2 cups, the 2 bowls, and that's actually drawn again. Yana brings up that tray again, that food tray, because they just finished cooking the food for Rachel, but they made multiple helpings, and if there's only one child, then you wouldn't have 2 helpings of everything. And I think it was also clever of her to add the Noah's Ark boat that was kind of put in the anime, but wasn't
I like the
originally
chess
in the manga,
set because
there's 2 of every animal.
You know, we always hear chess. You know, there's tons of similarities. Sebastian's the knight, the king, the pawn, whatever. And so here we may have found out that Ciel got his love of chess by playing it with a brother, especially if he was indoors a lot and maybe didn't have a good playmate. Could be how he got to be so good with games, because we all know that Ciel is very serious about his games. So, having 2 children myself, I know that when you have civil rivalry, it adds quite a bit to the wanting to win. And if you're lonely and that's your only time you get to spend, I think you would do anything you could to make it interesting. Let's go back one panel for me. That child that we saw a second ago was not coughing. He didn't look sick, but our Ciel right here is definitely sick. Okay, go forward 2 for me. Okay, this panel, again, is where you see the 2 serving sets. But I think this is interesting too. Ciel's asking about his mother. But if further in the, before this, Ciel had already seen his mother eat. So there would be no reason to ask, how did my mother eat, or what is she doing? He was already in the room with Rachel while she was there. Did you see that one?
I saw that one. I think I explained that away in my mind, is that thinking that since they gave the food to her, he ran out of the room right after they gave the food to her, so he wouldn't have seen her eat it. So that's probably how I explained that away in my head, but again, it could go either way.
Unfortunately, a lot of things that we're going to say end up with that note. It could go either way. Alright, so we have Ciel and Diedrich. Again, we've got a child, shy, hiding behind something, scared to come out. And instead of giving a name, Diedrich says, "Hey, Phantomhive boy." Well, he's talking to the very shy one. So, why wouldn't he just say, "Hey, Ciel"?
Or whatever his name is.
Or whatever his name is. So, flip for me. And this is the next panel. We can see a child that's obviously comfortable sitting on Vincent's lap right in front of Diedrich.
Unless it's the same one who, and after he coaxed him to come out, he hopped up on his lap. But the passage of time in the panels is kind of difficult to tell. So
It is. It can get, but I'm assuming that they happen very close together. They're all within the same page of each other. So, okay, here we have the start of kind of what I think of as the Ciel's asthma conspiracy theory. He didn't even tell Sebastian that he had had asthma at one point. And the only good reason that I can think of would be that if the real Ciel did not have asthma, and now you're going to have to pretend that you're him, you don't want other people to know because they may start to figure it out. And another thing I want to point out is Lizzie is right there in the background. That's going to come up in just a few of the panels I'm going to show you. The fact that Elizabeth knows that Ciel has asthma has got a lot of bearing on the story in a little bit. So here we have, after the circus arc, they've got a day to themselves, and Elizabeth is surprised that Ciel was bedridden. So obviously, Ciel didn't tell her, neither did Sebastian. Okay, she's kind of asking why. He's kind of giving a lame excuse. Well, the case didn't really have time for it. We'll just go with that for now.
and Sebastian kind of covers
Smirking,
it.
yeah. All right. Okay, this is during the boat arc, and we have Ciel having what could be an asthma attack. But as soon as Lizzie notices, he starts trying to cover it up. I just choked on some water. I wasn't coughing because of an asthma attack.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. All right, we've got Sebastian trying to protect his young master, saying if your body gets cold, your cough, you know, he's just got over the asthma attack from the first the first asthma attack we ever see in Book of Circus. So this is right after this, and he's saying don't mention that now.
Right.
And you
Lizzie's
can
right there.
You can clearly see Sebastian's kind of giving the stink eye to Elizabeth. He's like, I see what you're talking about. We don't want her to know. But you can tell that she's obviously noticed something.
But if she already knows that this Ciel has asthma, then there would be no need to hide it from her.
All right, I think this is when we really start to get some of Lizzie's personality traits. She has started to figure this out. She is getting the fact that something is going on because she cooks up this whole setup. We've got her with an Easter egg saying, look, Ciel, isn't this flower pattern nostalgic? Ciel clearly has no idea what she's talking about. You can see he's sweating up there. He's playing it off. Yeah, I definitely noticed that. So,
And she kind of has that expression on her face, like she's shocked, you know.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, this my plan is working," sort of thing. But shocked that it might that her suspicions might be true.
all right.
Kind of what I get from that look.
Okay, and so she's going, you would always find my Easter egg first, wouldn't you, Ciel? I love the way that this is phrased because it really, you're starting to notice. Okay, you would always find my Easter egg first.
It's very leading questions.
Yes. So you have to make sure to be the first this year, too. Look at Sebastian. We don't see Sebastian worried very often in this comic. But he looks a little anxious. He looks a little worried right there, like he's thinking about something. Go ahead. Okay, this is after Ciel's found the egg. Elizabeth, this is kind of her thoughts. We've celebrated Easter together so many times. However, this was the first year that I made my own egg. Okay, let's go back 2 panels. Go back one more for me. No, or forward one more. Okay, you would always find my Easter egg first, and then flip back 2. forward to. There we go. Can't you read my mind? Okay. However, this was the first year I'd made my own Easter egg. Lizzie's figured it out.
He's fallen into the trap.
She knows that something is not right. She may not have realized that we have Ciel's younger brother playing it off, but she knows that something isn't right, and she created that little trap for him.
Right, and in the next panel, I'm not sure if you have that, where she just kind of asks Ciel what happened to you in that month. Is it there?
No, but we do have the panel where you can kind of see. No, it's not there. I think this panel is actually more telling. You can see, this is her memories. You see Ciel with the egg, and then Ciel coughing.
His confusion, yeah.
This is the moment, I think, that on the boat is when she put it together. That with the coughing, and those are her memories that we're seeing, the coughing and the egg.
Right, and she just says, Ciel, what happened to you in that 1 month? And so she may not have made the connection that it may be, he may not be Ciel, but she has definitely thought that, okay, maybe something happened to him that would have affected his memories. So she's definitely suspicious of why he doesn't remember these things, that they, shared so many things together, and he's not remembering them. So we're not exactly what her suspicions are, but she's definitely suspicious.
She was clearly suspicious enough to create a trap for him.
Definitely.
Alright, the fake brothers thing, after rereading this, it keeps being mentioned over and over again that Ciel doesn't need fake brothers. It maybe once would have been a coincidence. Bringing it up 3 or 4 times starts to make me think maybe not. These are 2 separate panels where we've got Ciel saying, I don't need them, I don't need fake brothers.
Yeah, and Vincent's talking about the FAG system right now at Weston. And
this is the one you were asking
right,
about
and FAGs act as, younger brothers, but just in the school system. And, but they're fake, they're not real brothers. So Ciel's commenting on that I don't need fake brothers. So why would he say that?
And here again we have, a little brother being mentioned.
This is in the murder arc, and he's talking to Arthur. And they're in the bed together there, and he's talking about.
It's not yaoi, people, I promise.
This is when they're forced to share a bed together.
That's the 10 o'clock panel tonight.
And yeah, Arthur's talking about how he basically Ciel reminds him of a younger brother that he has. He says, "I have 10 siblings. I have a brother who is around the Earl's age," and Ciel kind of has that look of sad nostalgia on his face. What's that?
Okay, here we have another one where little brothers keep getting mentioned. I like the look on Ciel's face where he says, you can't understand the feelings of a younger son that will never inherit a title. Well, if our Ciel was the younger brother, then he would understand the feelings because only the oldest would have inherited the title of Earl in the British peerage system. And all the money and influence that came with. Okay, so these slides start to get a little confusing, mostly because they are pulled from so many different parts of the book. We've got parts from the first book, the second, some just thrown in, and they're all showing the night that Vincent and Rachel were murdered, and that we believe both boys were kidnapped. This is the, let's just say cult leader, since we don't really know too much about him. And the wording here is another one of those little subtle places that kind of made me pause. This is worth more than 2 people.
Yeah, there's many ways that you could phrase that, for sure. When you first read it, obviously you think Ciel is the only one in there, and the cult leader is obviously purchasing him, and he would have, I mean, regardless of whether there are twins or not, he would have been a rare find on the black market like that, and so he would have been worth a lot. So you just kind of brush it off and move on, but he could be saying, this is worth more than 2 people. Or,
because it is.
Or he could be saying, this is worth more than 2 people. It's because there's 2 people in there. So
and remember
it depends on how he's
the
saying it.
phrasing that Yana herself told us, that it was the hints that she put in were subtle to make you read it the first time, maybe pause and go, and then go on. So
And with twins, noble twins would have been even more valuable.
And twins born during the Victorian period were even more rare because most of them did not live. So.
Right.
Okay.
Fast forward.
Yeah. It's warm. We've got 2 kids holding hands. Doesn't really mean much by itself, but
Chapter 90. This is fast forward to Ciel's just been poisoned, shall we say?
yeah.
All right. Yeah. And we're not. But yeah.
He's
having a
compromised
flashback.
mentally.
He's having a flashback. Here, we'll just say that. And yeah.
Okay, how many people have memories where they see themselves in their memory? I still had you. A few of you, but we'll go with the majority.
That
Kind of don't
sentiment.
have an out-of-body experience and see yourself in it. That is definitely Ciel or his twin. When you look at the face, there is one. The Prince and the Pauper theory of 2 boys comes to mind. But when you see this picture, I think it really kind of takes it out because that boy is exactly like Ciel.
They are way too close alike, and really there have been whole threads on just the differences in appearance between the 2 of them. They look so much alike except for the hair. Right.
Yeah,
and
that's one of the few things that I did not attempt to do in this panel, but what she's talking about is the hair here.
Hair whirls, yes.
Is-
with mirror image twins, the hair whirls go opposite directions. So the hair will lean one more side, more to the left or more to the right. And so you wouldn't notice this much with real life people, but when it's drawn, it's very obvious. And so anytime we've seen Ciel or the twin drawn, it's either been the hair leans to the left, or with Ciel, our Ciel, his hair leans to the right and it covers his right eye. So people have pointed out these very subtle differences between the 2, and that's how we've been differentiating them because they look so alike.
I'm hoping that when everybody gets done out of here, that you will go back and read the series and really start looking for these things. Because once you start, you will find so many of them. Alright, so here we have supposed to be Ciel's memories, but we see himself being led away. No, I think we see the twin here being led away. And his name is even called out in the last panel.
Right. Yeah, because it's very ambiguous at first as to who exactly is calling Ciel, because the speech bubble's not pointing to anyone, but we see a boy being taken away, and we see another hand reaching for that boy, and then someone calls out Ciel, but since the boy's mouth is being covered, we could assume that is our Ciel calling out to perhaps the real Ciel.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the hand is covering the mouth, so it would be really hard to yell out that clearly, Ciel. Alright. Alright, no one comes to rescue us. No one comes to our rescue. These things are said over and over in different ways. Now, at this point, Rachel and Vincent are already dead. There's nobody else to be rescued.
Right, the only counterpoint that really exists there is that he's talking about himself and the other children that he's with. And so that's the only counterpoint I can think of for.
But we
who he
all
could be
know that
referring
our
to.
Ciel is a little bit selfish, and he doesn't really seem to care for anybody else unless they have some type of personal gain situation from it. So, okay, and this is a good picture too because we're starting to get to the wound, we see that this child that looks like Ciel has got a very obvious chest wound. He's been stabbed. Okay, we can see from Ciel's own memories a child being held down.
And it's from his point of view. We're assuming this is from his point of view, so
we can see him looking on here,
right?
And then these
That's
are his
the circus
memories.
arc, and then we have the flashbacks and up and around there.
So, and we can see a child that looks just like Ciel reaching out for his help. All right, this child is clearly being stabbed. There's no way that is not a very serious wound, and he is covered in blood. Yeah. Well, let's take a look. We finally have Sebastian showing up. You know, he's kind of slow sometimes. We have got an altar. Come on, did anybody see the second episode? He told him he was slow just so he could enjoy watching him get tortured. I love you, Bassie.
I know Grail does like heels. I have everything to more.
So, we've got an altar totally covered with blood. That is not a little wound. You're not walking away from that. You have summoned me. The fact will not change for eternity. What has been sacrificed will never return. Not what is going to be sacrificed, but what has been sacrificed.
And there is a lot of discussion about what exactly that sacrifice is.
But I think the next panel gives us a clue. Not that one. Maybe go one more for me. One more, and we'll come back for a second. Okay, go back. Apparently, they're not in the order that I thought they were. Go to back. Go back one more. Okay, the panel after this, and it's on these next 5 slides somewhere, shows Sebastian licking his lips as if he has just had a really good meal. Really good. I mean,
Or about to.
he's really gotten into it.
Oh my!
So we've got Ciel is definitely in the cage. I want to point that out. Ciel is in the cage. He is not in the altar. He does not have a gaping wound in his chest. There is no blood on his shirt.
And this hesitation here.
His hesitation, what is your name? My name is, point to the blood-covered altar.
And actually, it's a little dark there, but in the upper left corner, you can just barely make out a hand on the altar.
With a ring on it.
Where?
Yeah, you have to see that.
When you get home and you look at these in your own books, I promise they'll be a lot easier to see.
There was definitely a hand there. I don't know if I can see the ring, but there's definitely a hand on the altar, and so we could, infer that he is looking at the altar, and you just see those dots, and he's hesitating to give his name, and so take that for what you will.
Okay. Ciel Phantomhive, the one who will inherit the house of Earl of Phantomhive. He's not, the wording of that again is so subtle. The one who will inherit the house. Well, if he's already the Earl, now I know his parents have just died, but that would have been a hereditary title. He would have grown up with the title of Earl. Okay, and then we see Sebastian laughing. Ha ha, I see, that'll be fine. So,
We know Sebastian likes to play butler, but
we know Sebastian likes to play, period. He loves to mess with Ciel, and I think here's just another opportunity for him to screw with Ciel's mind. He's laughing. What? I don't know about anybody else, but that face just does not make me want to giggle.
It makes me want to hug him forever with lots of kisses and love.
It makes me want to steal his sexy demon butler.
You are horrible.
He's mine. He's mine. He's mine.
All right.
Okay, back to the sacrifice bit.
Here we have the licking. The Sebastian really enjoyed his dinner. He is still licking his lips after it is over.
I don't know.
Or looking forward to the one that's coming.
I need help.
Okay, you have given a big sacrifice. Now it's your choice whether to make a contract with a demon and have your wishes granted or not. The price to cross the river has already been paid. Well, if we know that Sebastian doesn't get to eat Ciel's soul until after he has completed his revenge. So, what was the price? Maybe he's already had his Phantomhive meal. Do you want to say anything about that one? Since that is such a big revealing panel. Go back one for me, Kim.
Yes. There are multiple translations of this. The official print version says the price of crossing has already been paid. I'm not sure if river is explicitly in there, but the way that the print version, the official print version did it was the price of crossing has already been paid. It's basically the same meaning. So we're all wondering, what was the price? Is it his soul? Was it somebody else's soul, perhaps? There's a lot of mythological aspects we could go into with this, but I did a little digging on that as well and found that mythologically someone could give up their own soul for the crossing of the River Styx for somebody else. So just that little tidbit there. But don't know if Viana's tapping into that or not, but there's obviously a lot of questions there.
She's very good with the subtle and the giving us just enough information to get us interested, and then totally dropping it for like 5 or 6 chapters and we won't see it again. I want the power to take revenge on the ones who did this to us. Again, that plural of us is being used. Could be the Phantomhive family. I personally believe he's talking about himself and his brother. Alright, here's where the hair thing that we were talking about earlier comes in. You've got 2 boys that, and this is kind of been the part where people that focus on the 2 Ciels as this being Ciel's, maybe mentally this is his brother in his mind, or this is himself, but you can see the subtle differences in the hair. Also, one child has got the mark of the contract and the other does not. If you were picturing a conversation with yourself, I'm assuming that you would look the same both ways. You wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. The only counterpoint I have on that, I heard a theory, an alternative theory on that, which was if he's seeing himself as himself in this memory or his consciousness, then it could be argued that there is a portion of Ciel or Ciel's soul that is not contracted to Sebastian. And that would open up a whole new can of worms. So I personally think that's unlikely. Now, twin theory could be unlikely too, but with everything else we've got, I think this is the more likely explanation for that.
And I really like the fact that their facial expressions are totally different too. We've got this child that's smiling, seems to be a little more happy. RCL with his
that one.
Yeah, RCL with his perpetual gloomy look. I think this one's face actually looks a little bit chubbier, like maybe he was a little bit healthier than RCL. I don't know if anybody else sees that as well.
The colors.
But I do.
The colors. Yeah, the colors on the hats and the bows. They're different shades.
The bows are different shades, but they're on a giant chessboard, so I tend to take the
They're wearing
color.
the same outfit. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just like how she chose to light it, and that's why it looks different. But they are wearing the same outfit, and pretty much the only difference is, you know, the contract eye and the way the hair looks.
Alright. No one asked you to take revenge. I know. If you know, then why do you seek revenge? I think that this is Ciel trying to reconcile with his brother. Okay, again, we've got one child that is dancing around, that is very happy and just kind of more athletic.
It's kind of a jokester. I got this very kind of like sneaky vibe from this other Ciel.
Mischievous, yeah.
Mischievous, yeah.
And then we have our Ciel that's just standing there, and I think that the chess piece that he's standing in front of too is symbolic as well, especially as many times as he's mentioned chess.
This chessboard has been analyzed to death, by the way. Like the pieces of the chessboard.
We could have done an hour just on this one set of panels.
Definitely.
Okay, now this is supposed to be Ciel talking to himself. Again, we see a child that's in a cage, no gaping chest wound, because you made that choice. They're talking about the contract, and the contract with Sebastian to get revenge. With the power you gain by sacrificing me. Here we do see a child that looks almost exactly like Ciel with a gaping chest wound.
This one's very telling, and there's been a lot of discussion about this one, and what exactly he means by sacrificing me, meaning Ciel sacrificed him. So there are a couple interpretations of that, but again, ambiguous.
I think that panel is very, very telling, though. It's one of the few that almost seems like, go back for a second. I think this one almost seems like it's giving away too much of the game. It doesn't even seem like she's hiding that anymore.
Right, and after this, actually throughout this arc, this is the most recent Greenwich arc, when, let's say, Ciel's a bit incapacitated and not himself, and he's been feeling, and actually kind of more himself, in my opinion, because his barriers are down in this portion of the arc. And he's feeling a lot of guilt, like tremendous survivor's guilt for sure, and just in the way that he's talking. But there seems to be even more than that, more than just the survivor's guilt. So he seems to be guilty about something that he did, and it could have been related to the sacrifice of the twin, but we're not sure exactly like how the passage of events.
But it was only 90% guilt. Okay, I feel sorry for all the people that have become a victim to your boring existence. This is Sebastian talking, if you can't tell from that quote. And then the next panel that is shown...
Sebastian giving up on Ciel, basically.
All of the victims. We have got Ciel standing in front of the boy in the cage.